Good morning, afternoon, evening. When we think of kindness, many of us picture warmth, generosity, and patience. And yes, those are all beautiful qualities. But too often, we confuse kindness with softness and softness with allowing ourselves to be walked over, drained, and undervalued. Today, I want to challenge that notion and invite you to rethink what it means to be kind. Being kind is often celebrated as one of the most admirable qualities a person can possess. It's a trait that fosters connection, empathy, and a sense of community. But kindness, when misunderstood or misapplied, can lead to a life where others take advantage of your good nature. This is where boundaries become not just necessary, but vital. Boundaries are not about pushing others away, they're about protecting your sense of self and maintaining your integrity in relationships. When you lack boundaries, you risk losing control over your time, energy, and emotional well-being. People who overextend themselves in the name of kindness often themselves feeling resentful, depleted, or invisible. Without boundaries, you become like an open door, always available, always accommodating, but also easily taken for granted. Setting boundaries, on the other hand, is an act of self-respect. It sends a clear message: I value myself, my time, and my needs just as much as I value yours. Establishing boundaries isn't an act of rejection or selfishness, it's an act of clarity. It defines where you end and where someone else begins. Without this clarity, relationships can become one-sided, where one person gives endlessly while the other takes without pause. Healthy boundaries help create a balance, ensuring that kindness doesn't come at the cost of your well-being. The fear of setting boundaries often stems from the worry that doing so will make you appear uncaring or unkind, but the reality is quite the opposite. Boundaries allow you to show up fully in your relationships because they prevent you from becoming overwhelmed or resentful. When you communicate your limits clearly and respectfully, you foster trust and mutual respect. People who truly care for you will appreciate your honesty and recognize the strength it takes to advocate for yourself. Boundaries are also about taking responsibility for your own needs. It's tempting to think that saying yes to everything will make people like you more. But in truth, it often leads to burnout. Learning to say no when necessary is a profound act of self-care. It allows you to preserve your energy for the people and pursuits that matter most. Ultimately, boundaries are about alignment, ensuring that your actions reflect your values and priorities. They empower you to live authentically, fostering deeper, healthier connections with those around you. By setting boundaries, you're not just being kind to yourself, you're teaching others to value and respect you in the way you deserve. Empathy is one of the most powerful tools we have for building meaningful relationships and creating a sense of connection. It allows us to step into someone else's shoes, understand their struggles, and offer genuine support. However, empathy, when unbalanced, can sometimes cross into enabling an unintentional behavior that reinforces negative patterns or creates dependency. True compassion doesn't simply soothe the surface of someone's pain. It empowers them to face their challenges and grow stronger from the experience. When we care deeply about someone, it's natural to want to ease their discomfort. We might take on their responsibilities, shield them from consequences, or repeatedly fix their problems. While these actions often stem from a place of love, they can unintentionally hinder the other person's growth. By constantly stepping in to rescue, we may send the subtle message that we don't believe they are capable of handling their own struggles. This diminishes their confidence and can create a cycle of reliance. True empathy uplifts. It acknowledges the other person's pain while also respecting their autonomy. Instead of rushing to solve their problems, empathy encourages you to stand beside them, offering support as they navigate their own path. This might mean actively listening without immediately offering solutions, or asking thoughtful questions that help them reflect on their situation. It's about empowering them to find their own strength rather than assuming they need yours to survive. Empathy without enabling also requires clear boundaries. It's not your responsibility to carry someone else's burdens indefinitely, especially when doing so begins to harm your well-being. Supporting someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Healthy empathy allows for mutual respect, where both parties' needs and boundaries are acknowledged. It's important to recognize that growth often comes from discomfort. Shielding someone from the natural consequences of their choices may spare them temporary pain, but it also robs them of the opportunity to learn and grow. Compassion doesn't mean removing all obstacles from someone's path. It means walking alongside them as they find the strength to overcome those obstacles themselves. At its core, empathy is about connection and understanding, not control. It's a way of saying, I see you, I hear you, and I believe in your ability to rise. It's about being present without taking over, offering guidance without dictating, and showing love without losing sight of your own limits. When practiced in this way, empathy becomes a force for healing and empowerment, not a crutch that holds someone back. Saying no can feel like one of the hardest things to do, especially when we care deeply about others or worry about how we'll be perceived. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that saying no is selfish, unkind, or uncooperative. But the truth is, saying no to others often means saying yes to yourself, and that is a courageous and necessary act of self-care. The reluctance to say no often stems from a desire to please others or avoid conflict. We want to be seen as helpful, reliable, and kind, so we stretch ourselves thin, taking on more than we can handle. Over time, this pattern can leave us feeling overwhelmed, resentful, and disconnected from our own needs. The irony is that the more we say yes out of obligation, the less authentic and effective our contributions become. A yes given begrudgingly or half-heartedly isn't a true yes. Saying no is not about rejecting people. It's about protecting your time, energy, and well-being so you can show up fully in the areas that matter most. When you say no to something that doesn't align with your priorities or values, you create space for the things that do. You allow yourself the freedom to focus on your goals, nurture your relationships, and recharge when needed. It takes courage to say no because it requires you to confront your fears, fear of disappointing others, fear of judgment, and fear of conflict. But the reality is, every no is also a yes. When you say no to overcommitting, you say yes to balance. When you say no to things that drain you, you say yes to protecting your energy. And when you say no to what doesn't serve you, you say yes to living in alignment with your values. The key to saying no with courage and grace lies in clear and respectful communication. You don't need to justify or over-explain your decision. A simple and honest response, delivered with kindness, is enough. Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm not able to take this on right now, is a powerful example of how to set boundaries without burning bridges. By saying no when necessary, you model healthy boundaries for others and invite them to respect your limits. You also remind yourself that your needs matter. Self-care is not selfish. It's a way of ensuring you have the strength and capacity to support others when it truly counts. Saying no is an act of bravery that reaffirms your commitment to honoring yourself. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. Many equate it with weakness, as though opening yourself up means relinquishing power or control. But vulnerability is, in fact, a profound act of strength. It takes courage to show up authentically, to share your fears, dreams, and truths without the guarantee of how they will be received. Yet, being vulnerable does not mean becoming a doormat. It doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, mistreatment, or sacrificing your self-worth for the sake of connection. When you choose vulnerability, you are embracing your humanity. You're saying, this is who I am, unfiltered and real. This authenticity fosters genuine connection because it invites others to do the same. However, this openness requires discernment. Not everyone deserves access to your innermost thoughts and feelings. Vulnerability without boundaries can leave you exposed to those who might misuse your trust or exploit your openness. Being vulnerable is not about lowering your guard entirely, but about letting the right people in. It's about creating spaces where honesty and compassion thrive, where you feel seen and valued for who you are. In these spaces, vulnerability is transformative. It deepens relationships and builds trust. But in relationships or environments where respect is lacking, being vulnerable can lead to harm rather than connection. This is why it's crucial to pair vulnerability with self-respect and firm boundaries. Tolerating disrespect or mistreatment under the guise of being open diminishes the power of vulnerability. It sends the message that your feelings, needs, and worth are secondary to someone else's behavior. True vulnerability isn't about enduring negativity. It's about standing firm in your truth while refusing to accept less than you deserve. Practicing vulnerability also means recognizing your own worth. It's about understanding that you are deserving of relationships that honor and respect your openness. When someone dismisses, belittles, or exploits your vulnerability, it's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their inability to honor the gift of your authenticity. In these moments, walking away or setting boundaries is not weakness, it's strength. Vulnerability requires balance. It's about being open enough to forge meaningful connections while protecting yourself from harm. It's about embracing the courage to be real while ensuring your self-respect remains intact. Being vulnerable doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for others. It means showing up as your true self and expecting others to treat you with the respect and care. That the idea that we must always be available to others is a myth that can lead to exhaustion, resentment, and a diminished sense of self. In a world that often equates busyness with worth, the expectation to be endlessly available, to answer every call, fulfill every request, and meet every need has become almost normalized. But the truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you constantly give without replenishing your own energy, you risk burning out, leaving little to give to yourself or anyone else. Endless availability comes at a cost. It can drain your emotional, mental, and physical reserves, leaving you overwhelmed and stretched too thin. While it may feel noble to always be there for others, it's important to recognize that your time and energy are finite resources. Just as you wouldn't let your phone battery run to zero without recharging, you shouldn't allow your personal reserves to deplete without taking time to restore them. Prioritizing your energy wisely is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-preservation. It allows you to show up more fully and effectively in the areas of your life that truly matter. When you constantly say yes to everything, you dilute your focus and compromise your ability to give your best. Saying no, setting boundaries, and carving out time for self-care are all ways to protect your energy so you can invest it where it counts most. It's also important to challenge the societal pressure to be constantly available. Technology has made it easier than ever for people to reach us at all hours, but accessibility doesn't mean obligation. Just because someone can contact you doesn't mean you're required to respond immediately or at all. Learning to set limits on your availability, such as designated times for work, rest, and personal commitments, helps you reclaim control over your time. When you prioritize yourself, you model healthy behavior for others. You demonstrate that it's okay to have boundaries, to rest, and to say no when necessary. This not only benefits you, but also creates a ripple effect, encouraging those around you to honor their own needs as well. Ultimately, prioritizing your energy means recognizing that you matter too. Your well-being is the foundation upon which everything else is built. By letting go of the myth of endless availability, you give yourself permission to recharge, refocus, and live more intentionally. You can't pour from an empty cup, but when your cup is full, you can give freely, authentically, and generously. Honesty is one of the most powerful acts of kindness we can offer. It is the foundation of trust, the bedrock of meaningful relationships, and a pathway to true understanding. Yet many of us shy away from honesty because we fear the discomfort it may cause. We sugarcoat truths, soften our words, or avoid difficult conversations altogether, thinking we're sparing others pain. But in reality, this avoidance often leads to bigger problems, misunderstandings, resentment, and fractured connections. When we sugarcoat the truth, we create a barrier between ourselves and others. Instead of addressing issues directly, we leave things unsaid or present them in a way that dilutes their significance. While this may seem like an act of kindness, it often has the opposite effect. The person on the receiving end is left with partial information, unable to make fully informed decisions or address the root of the issue. Over time, these half-truths can accumulate, creating confusion and eroding trust. True kindness lies in being real. It's about delivering the truth with compassion and respect, even when it's uncomfortable. This doesn't mean being harsh or tactless. It means choosing words that are honest but considerate. For example, instead of avoiding feedback that someone might need to hear, you can frame it in a way that emphasizes growth and understanding. I care about you, and I think it's important we talk about this, is a far kinder approach than saying nothing at all. Honesty also invites authenticity into relationships. When you are truthful, you give others permission to be truthful in return. This creates a space where genuine connection can flourish, where both parties feel seen, heard, and respected for who they truly are. Conversely, when honesty is lacking, relationships often become superficial, driven by assumptions and unspoken frustrations. The fear of conflict is a common barrier to honesty, but avoiding conflict rarely resolves anything. In fact, it often amplifies the problem as unaddressed issues linger beneath the surface. A difficult but honest conversation can clear the air and pave the way for resolution. It may not be easy in the moment, but the long-term benefits far outweigh the temporary discomfort. Honesty is a gift. It shows that you value the other person enough to share your truth, even when it's hard. It demonstrates respect for their ability to handle the reality of the situation and a commitment to fostering a relationship based on authenticity. Kindness and honesty are not opposites, they are partners. To be truly kind, you must also be real. Many of us struggle to differentiate between guilt and generosity, often mistaking the former for the latter. We've been conditioned to believe that prioritizing ourselves is selfish, that putting our needs above others is an act of neglect rather than self-care. This misunderstanding can lead to an endless cycle of overextending ourselves, giving more than we can afford emotionally, mentally, and physically, all because we feel guilty for saying no or setting boundaries. But the truth is, feeling bad for putting yourself first doesn't make you selfish, it makes you human. Generosity is a beautiful quality rooted in kindness and compassion. It's about giving from a place of abundance, sharing your time, energy, or resources because you genuinely want to, not because you feel obligated to. Guilt, on the other hand, stems from a fear of judgment or a sense of duty that often overrides your personal needs. When you give out of guilt rather than true generosity, it's not an act of love or kindness. It's a reaction to internal pressure and a desire to avoid discomfort. The problem with guilt-driven giving is that it's unsustainable. Over time, it can lead to resentment, exhaustion, and even a loss of self-identity. You begin to feel like your worth is tied to how much you can do for others, neglecting the fact that you too deserve care and attention. Generosity ceases to be joyful when it comes at the expense of your well-being. Putting yourself first is not an act of selfishness. It's a necessary act of self-respect. It allows you to recharge, reflect, and ensure that you have the capacity to give meaningfully. When you honor your own needs, you set a powerful example for others, showing them that self-care is not just acceptable, it's essential. You remind them that boundaries are healthy and that everyone benefits when individuals take responsibility for their own well-being. The next time you feel guilty for saying no, consider this. Are you declining because you truly cannot give, or because you know saying yes would compromise your health, time, or happiness? If it's the latter, your decision is not selfish, it's wise. Saying no in such instances isn't about withholding generosity, it's about preserving it. Generosity should never come from a place of guilt. When it does, it loses its authenticity and value. True generosity is born from a full heart, not an empty one. By putting yourself first when necessary, you ensure that your giving remains genuine, meaningful, and sustainable. In doing so, you redefine what it means to care not just for others, but for yourself. Strength is often misunderstood. Many equate it with dominance, control, or an unwavering stance, while others see it as endless compassion and sacrifice. But true strength lies in balance, the ability to be both firm and compassionate. It's about caring deeply for others without compromising your core values or losing sight of who you are. Strong people understand that these qualities are not opposites but complementary forces that, when balanced, create resilience, authenticity, and meaningful connections. Firmness is essential because it anchors you to your values and boundaries. It allows you to stand confidently in your truth, even when faced with pressure or conflict. Without firmness, you risk being swayed by external demands or expectations, leaving you disconnected from your own needs and priorities. It's not about being inflexible or stubborn, it's about knowing where you draw the line and having the courage to uphold it. This clarity ensures that your actions align with your beliefs, fostering integrity and self-respect. Compassion, on the other hand, is what allows you to connect with others, to empathize with their struggles, and to approach challenges with kindness. It's the quality that softens rigidity and adds humanity to your firmness. Compassion doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or exceeding harmful behavior. It means understanding others' perspectives while remaining true to your own. When paired with firmness, compassion creates space for dialogue, growth, and mutual respect. Balancing firmness and compassion requires self-awareness and intentionality. It means knowing when to listen and when to speak up, when to offer support, and when to let others learn from their own experiences. Strong people recognize that caring deeply for others doesn't mean neglecting their own needs. In fact, they understand that they are better equipped to help others when they are grounded in their own well-being. This balance also allows strong individuals to navigate difficult situations with grace. They can hold others accountable without being harsh, and they can extend empathy without enabling unhealthy patterns. They know that saying no when necessary doesn't make them unkind, it makes them honest. And they understand that standing firm in their values isn't a rejection of others, but a reflection of their commitment to authenticity. Strength is not about choosing between firmness and compassion. It's about weaving the two together. It's the ability to remain open-hearted while holding your ground, to care deeply without losing yourself, and to lead with both conviction and kindness. In this balance lies the true essence of strength, a life rooted in integrity, resilience, and meaningful connection. True empowerment isn't about shielding people from the challenges they face or protecting them from the consequences of their actions. It's about supporting them in learning, growing, and taking responsibility for their choices. While it may feel counterintuitive, allowing someone to face the natural outcomes of their behavior can often be the most loving and impactful thing you can do. Accountability is not a punishment, it's an opportunity for growth, and fostering it is an act of care. When we step in to rescue others from their mistakes, we might believe we're being helpful or kind. But in reality, we may be unintentionally undermining their ability to learn important life lessons. Shielding someone from the consequences of their actions can create a cycle of dependency where they rely on others to solve their problems rather than developing the resilience and problem-solving skills necessary to navigate challenges on their own. Over time, this can erode their confidence and sense of agency. Empowering someone through accountability means trusting in their capacity to handle difficulty and grow stronger from it. It's about holding space for them to take ownership of their actions, learn from their experiences, and make better choices moving forward. This doesn't mean abandoning them in their struggles. It means offering support and encouragement while resisting the urge to intervene unnecessarily. Acknowledge their feelings, validate their experience, but allow them to take the lead in resolving the situation. Accountability also fosters mutual respect. When you hold someone accountable, you communicate that you believe they are capable and responsible. This trust can be transformative, encouraging them to rise to the occasion and develop a deeper sense of self-reliance. It also sets the foundation for healthier relationships, where both parties are responsible for their actions and contributions. Of course, practicing this kind of tough love requires courage and discernment. It's not always easy to watch someone you care about face discomfort or struggle. You may feel tempted to step in, fearing they might falter or suffer. But true love doesn't aim to spare someone from all hardship. It aims to help them grow into their best selves. By allowing others to face the natural outcomes of their decisions, you give them the gift of autonomy and the opportunity to develop resilience. Empowering others through accountability is an act of deep respect and care. It says, I believe in you. I trust that you are capable of learning and growing. In doing so, you help them build the skills, confidence, and strength they need to navigate life with greater independence and integrity. Knowing your worth is one of the most empowering realizations you can have. It's the understanding that your value is inherent, not something determined by external validation or the approval of others. It's about recognizing the unique qualities and contributions you bring to the table and refusing to let anyone diminish or exploit them. In a world that often equates kindness with weakness, knowing your worth ensures that your generosity remains a strength, not a vulnerability. Kindness is a powerful gift, but when it's given without boundaries, it can be taken advantage of. There are times when people may exploit your willingness to help, assuming that your kindness is limitless or that it obligates you to meet their needs at your own expense. Recognizing this dynamic is not about becoming cynical or guarded. It's about understanding that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and reciprocity. When you notice that your efforts are being met with entitlement or manipulation rather than gratitude, it's a sign that your kindness is being misused. Knowing your worth means being able to set boundaries without guilt. It's having the confidence to say no when something doesn't serve you, even if it disappoints others. This doesn't make you unkind, it makes you discerning. Your value is not tied to how much you give or how many people you please. True kindness comes from a place of abundance, and you can only give authentically when you honor your own needs and limits. It's also important to separate your worth from others' approval. Many of us fall into the trap of seeking validation through external recognition, believing that our value is tied to how others perceive us. But relying on others' opinions to define your self-worth is a fragile foundation. People's perceptions can be influenced by their own biases, insecurities, and circumstances, none of which reflect your true value. Your worth is intrinsic. It exists independently of your accomplishments, your relationships, or others' opinions. When you internalize this truth, you become less susceptible to exploitation and more empowered to make choices that align with your value and well-being. By knowing your worth, you create space for healthier, more fulfilling connections, relationships where your kindness is appreciated, not taken for granted. You also inspire others to recognize their own worth and establish boundaries that protect their energy and self-respect. Ultimately, knowing your worth allows you to show up authentically in the world, giving freely from a place of confidence and integrity. In life, strength and kindness are not opposites. They are allies working together to create balance, authenticity, and meaningful relationships. To navigate the complexities of caring for others while honoring yourself, it's essential to set boundaries, embrace accountability, and prioritize self-worth. Honesty and vulnerability build deeper connections, but they must be paired with respect for your own needs. Empowerment comes not from avoiding conflict or discomfort, but from fostering growth both in yourself and others. Remember, your kindness is a gift, but it should never come at the expense of your core values. By knowing your worth, balancing compassion with firmness, and standing true to yourself, you can create a life rooted in integrity, generosity, and resilience. So let's redefine what it means to be kind. Stop being soft to everyone and start being true to yourself. Thank you.